Welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of The Solution. Before we get going into the meat of this, I essentially, and where the title came from, in life, whatever our struggles may be, whatever it is that we're aiming for, I think it's really, really important to be mindful of. One, the level of autonomy and agency we have in reference to seeing or helping to create the world that we wish to see. And it's one of those things where either you're a part of the problem and you're a part of the solution. And ideally, what I want this to be is a platform that allows us to have constructive, inclusive, engaging, and progressive conversations that really help us come together and stop playing games. Being divided is not a smart move, period. Like point blank. And the more we can reach a common ground and a similar understanding, the faster we'll move forward. 'Cause that's really the goal. Like if his progress isn't hurting my progress, I want him to win just as much. And the quicker we realize that it's not a race in that way, where it's a mindset of as soon as I come up, I can't wait to bring other people with me, instead of I'm gonna come up to bring folks down, like, we'll get it. So once again, thanks for joining us. My name is Anthony McClain.
Evan Marshall.
Nick Hallman.
Happy to be here. All right, let's get this one rolling. So first question, and something I think is interesting, is in this day and time, black culture is like the hottest commodity in the streets. Most lucrative, patting everybody's pockets, and it's something that it's cool, that it's hip hop, that it's fashion, that it's sports, but I want it to be intellectual as well. Because that's a major part of what we do, yet it's not nearly celebrated. Is there any shape, way, or form in which, well, one, there's two questions. Why isn't intellectualism cool? And then two, how do we integrate it into the mainstream to make it a bit more accessible to everybody else?
That's good. That's good.
I would say it goes back to the old historical adage, right? So I was just in New Orleans last week for Thanksgiving. One of the things we did there is we toured a plantation. One of the things they talked about at that plantation, if you go back in terms of how if you were the slave master, you didn't want slaves to read and write, right? Because at the end of the day, if you could read and write, then you can imagine. If you can imagine, then you could get off the plantation, right? Because when you think about it, if you're born in this plantation, that's all you know, and all you know in this world is what I tell you. You're not even trying to leave because you don't know anything else.
Facts.
But if you know, if I tell you the story about the Bible, then it's like, okay, if that could be possible, I can go somewhere. If I tell you the story about the ocean exists, what's that? Then you can imagine anything else, and then you might even just want to run away to try to find that. Right? You want to find Moby Dick, you want to run out there to try to find out there, get on that ship. Right? You don't know this, but you just can imagine there's a world outside this plantation, right? So because of that, you suppress that level of intellectualism, right? And then what always happens from that is there be at times where you have, funny question as well, so one of the houses, plantations we were at, so they got, this one woman was bedridden, so she could not have kids, right? So they had got a young girl to be just her basically personal slave.
Yeah.
Her brother, the woman who was bedridden, brother-in-law, ended up raping the young girl, right? Getting her pregnant, right? So end up having a kid, right? This is on the plantation. Fast forward, so it's gonna be back, take it back. She ends up having a kid. She didn't want to have any interaction with that kid, right? That kid, the child she had, ends up being the great-great-grandfather of the first ever African-American of New Orleans. The African-American mayor of New Orleans, right? And then his son becomes the third African-American mayor of New Orleans, right? So that goes to show you that if you suppress that intellectualism, then that way not everybody's gonna go there. But what he did, because he was his son, he had to teach him to read and write because he also didn't want his son to not be able to succeed, right? So because that level of intellectualism passed down and he was able to get ahead, that reverberated down to the quote unquote generational wealth. So the reason what we do transfer that over to today's society is that that's kind of how you go like the new version of Jim Crow. If you suppress that mindset in terms of staying within urban communities, stay in the South Side. You meet people here in Chicago that don't leave their block. Yeah. You don't know anything else, right?
It's
So
like the folks that live in Compton but have never seen the ocean. It's
exactly.
Like,
it's only 5 miles away, if that, right? So if you never get there, you don't know anything else. So then when you see people that are intellectual, then it's like that you don't know that person, so that person's foreign to you, right? So then you turn your nose up at that person and you feel insecure because you feel that that person thinks they're better than you, even if that person does not, and that person might think they're better than you.
Well, that's an interesting conversation.
It's an ingrained mindset of divide and conquer amongst our people that still reverberates throughout society today.
Yeah. I think that's very true. That's very real. And then I think there is an aspect of intellectualism that just isn't cool. I think
Unfortunately.
I think
And
societally,
like, that's the part that's low key killing me. But go ahead.
it's legit never been cool.
Yeah.
Like no one's ever been like, yo, who's the coolest person you can think of? Oh, bro, Stephen Hawking. Coolest guy on the
good
planet,
point. That's
you
a
know?
real good point.
Or like, who do you want to be? Oh, I can't wait to be Steve Jobs, right? But being intellectual hasn't ever been cool. The
Facts.
things we've praised, the things we've propped up as a society, not just black culture, have always been things that have been, whether it's, musicians, like actors, things like that. So I think
Because that's the only spaces that we've been allowed to be in, too.
True.
It's one of those things where, there's so woosah. Because I get hyped sometimes. I think the thing that's fascinating, and especially about our generation, the black folks, is that everybody that was an intellectual back then, we didn't necessarily relate to, just because either they were from an Ivy League institution, they got all the necessary accreditation, but we didn't see ourselves as that. So to us, it was almost a mixture of they might as well be white, or that's still not for us.
Right, true.
I think something that's interesting is, especially in this day and age, and especially with the mindset that most black folks have from a standpoint of, and we all have we get the cop story, we get that sit down, and work twice as hard to get half as much.
Right.
So we come at it from this mindset with this intensity from a standpoint of being brilliant and overachieving and just the bare minimum mindset that, or in order to afford the bare minimum, there's a large population of young black intellectuals that can now see themselves in other people and have that conversation, whereas now I feel like as a people, we're a bit more prepared and we're a bit more ready and a bit more ready to be engaged in conversations that are intellectually stimulating in that way. I think that partly back in the day, there just wasn't a large enough populace that could actually connect.
I think that's true, and then I think there's also an aspect of comfort. So when you look at anything that is intellectual, it challenges you to come outside of yourself. It challenges you to grow. It challenges you to move. Why is it that if we get in the car, we're like, yo, I'd rather listen to this album as opposed to a Common album? Why is it that, you look at the highest selling music just in general, it's usually not something that makes you think.
No,
it's usually not something that calls.
It's a good beat. It's
a good beat. You listen to the lyrics and you're like, yo, these lyrics are trash. This beat is fire though. You know what I mean? How often do we say that?
This hook though. This hook though.
This hook is cold.
Moneybag Yo, perfect example. Moneybag Yo.
Right?
Yes.
And so I think the reasoning behind that is because we like to be comfortable, and that's just human beings in general. But I also think, unfortunately, as people of color, we don't really have the luxury of comfort. So I think something we have to be constantly aware of is, hey, we can't be comfortable, because the minute we get comfortable, unfortunately, it can end in our death.
I think to that point, it's up to us to kind of shift the idea of what comfortable and what intellectually is defined as, right? So if you look at there's this group called the Black Nerds Club, right? So if you think about the traditional concept of a nerd, it's the pocket protector, glasses with the band, with the tape in the middle, right? Suspenders. Steve Urkel, basically. But at the end of the day, no matter what your passion is, you gotta be a nerd in that passion to be successful at it. If you wanna be great at this podcast and for it to be the best one, you have to research and cultivate the content.
And get better every single day.
You gotta be a nerd in that. If you wanna be an athlete, you gotta be a nerd in the basketball. You gotta be in the gym every day.
Putting that work in.
Putting that work in. It's a science, right? It's a science. If you wanna be a writer, if you wanna be a DJ, you gotta really be in there perfecting and mixing your graph. You gotta be a nerd in that subject. So really it is rather than, and if you are a nerd in that subject, your intellect in that subject. So it's just shifting the concept of what being an intellectual actually is.
True. Which is such a good point.
I love that idea.
I love that.
I love that idea. It makes it a bit more approachable, because I think that's also fascinating about that too is I think far too often we get stuck in thinking that we can only be one thing.
Yes.
And something that I spent a lot of time ruminating about this, because I adopted that for some reason. For a while I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
And then you see folks like Hove, then you see folks like the Donald Glovers. I think of the Jamie Foxxes. I'm like, man, you got the John Legend, and granted there's women out there too, don't get me wrong, but the Whoopi, but you can be anything and everything you want to be.
Right.
And I think folks need to understand the level of intellect that they have in order for them to be able to do such. And two, if we can celebrate that, we can also celebrate not just their accomplishments, but also their intellect.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I just don't think those conversations are set enough. So for example, if we were to get them on an interview, folks don't talk about the intellect. We might boost your accolades and like repeat them and celebrate you,
Bro,
but we don't talk about
man.
the journey. We don't talk about how this is possible for everybody if they allow themselves to. We still don't let people into that achievement. They see the achievement, but far too often, folks, and this was really, really interesting. I've been reading a lot of Angela Duckworth. The book is called Grit. It's really fire. It starts off a little slow. And there's some anecdotes that are meh, but there's a lot of fire ones. So that's my honest critique. But there's this thing
Don't
where, yeah, you know, don't at me, bro. But there's this thing where she talked about how we as human beings kind of develop our own schema or idea of what the world is and what the world has planned for us. And it's the difference between like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset.
Yeah.
And for people with a fixed mindset, we just think that we're only supposed to be here for X amount of time. We're not supposed to grow too much. We're just supposed to endure until we pass. And then from a growth mindset, you view everything, your obstacles, your difficulties, your struggles as opportunities. And that's really, really big, and that's really, really important. And it's also, I don't want to say, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very natural human behavior for us to either tell ourselves what we can't do or view the world as anything is possible. And I think the more we bring that to people's attention, that like, not that it's ingrained in us, but there's a choice to be made.
Yeah.
That there's a choice to be made. I think that will hopefully open up the doors, because I think about folks, including myself, by the grace of God, I was fortunate enough to be like good enough in school that I didn't have to apply myself, yet I still got really good grades.
Yeah.
There's folks some of which went about school similarly and didn't do as well in school. So for them, we probably viewed it the exact same way, but luckily I was fortunate enough to still excel in those spaces. And then when it's time for me to turn on and flip the switch, I was like, okay, it's game time. Some folks, if you're just cruising, there's no flip switch college for you because you didn't get in. And then you realize that it's too late. But I think it's one of those things that like being able to open our eyes. And first off, I got much smarter after college than I did in college. I want to keep that one hundo. like take ownership of your growth in that way.
Yeah.
But then two, that mindset, and me fully understanding that there's some people who just simply don't view the world as I do, and there's biological reasons as to why they don't. And I think that's something that's really, really important to help chisel down these walls that we tell ourselves. Yeah. Does your skin color define you more than your socioeconomic status, your level of education, your sexual orientation, or anything else for that matter?
Go ahead.
You can go. We both.
As an African American, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent. I actually hate the whole light skin, dark skin rhetoric. I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the plantation mindset. What you do just in society is you divide and conquer, right? So if you a slave, and I know you outnumber because there's 400, 500 of you slaves, what do? I pit you against each other, right? So if you think about Django, right? You got Samuel L. Jackson, South Africa, right? I pit you against, even if you look at like Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis, the Belgians came in and like came in with like, we're gonna put you guys against each other, right? But lighter skin, wider noses, right? So like end of the day, like if I put you guys against you, I can divide and conquer. Because at that point, then if you're focused on hating each other, then I can control both of y'all because neither one of y'all are worried about me.
Nope, and I'm about to end here, yes,
exactly. So that's my
take
point.
all these resources.
Exactly, so I think with being African American, also in terms of the United States, like it really does matter because we had slavery, we can't trace back our lineage. Right? We can't say, oh, I come from the Western culture of Africa. I come from Central Africa. I come from Eastern Africa. You don't know that. Especially then as a person, like I love going to Canada because if you go to Canada, they don't have that. The skin color does, obviously it does. There's racism everywhere, but it doesn't matter to the same extent as you do here because out there, Canada never had slavery. So for them, it's like they don't see culture. Like you go out there, you see two black people at a coffee shop, they speaking in French, right? Because they from Montreal. But I'm French Canadian. I'm not black, I'm French Canadian. Right. Or you meet, so I met a girl out when I went out to the Caribana. Caribana, first of all, is big out there because you have the Haitians, Trinidadians, people from Barbados that are all out there. And they embrace those cultures, right? They're not black, I'm from Barbados. Or I'm from Cuba, I'm from Dominican.
That's a real good point though,
And they never had those cultures out there. They don't believe, and if you ask somebody what you're, they're not expecting, oh, I'm black. They're expecting, like, where are you from? I met a girl, beautiful, dark skin, like Kelly Rowland, dark skin, beautiful. I was like, what are you? I'm half Cuban, half Jamaican. What? Like, you don't see that here.
True.
Like, she wouldn't even have even the kind of understanding how those cultures differ in terms of how she was raised is different. We don't have that concept here because you don't know where you come from.
No.
I don't know where I come from. You don't know where unless you come from your first generation whose parents came over here as immigrants from like Haiti or Nigeria.
True,
then you
but
know.
other than that,
but if not, you have
black.
no idea. You're black. So that's why your skin color matters.
Real talk.
Right?
Real talk.
Yeah.
I think part of it for me is dependent on the environment I'm in.
Ooh.
So I think, for
with
instance,
the finesse.
Yeah. So for instance, in a space like this,
Yeah.
even though we're all connected on the fact that we're all black people, it doesn't define me in the space because I'm able to be fully myself.
Yeah.
I'm able to say anything I need to
right.
say.
I'm
I'm able
this.
to ask the questions I need to ask. I'm able to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm not coming in trying to do like a dog and pony show. If something occurs, if I get a news flash on my phone and it says something happens, I can show my full gamut of emotions because I know you'll understand it.
Yes.
So here, like, I'm black, but I'm also not black in the sense of I'm not the black I have to be in other spaces. So I think depending on where I'm at, but if I'm in other spaces, then my blackness does define me because I'm fully aware that that's the first thing that I'm seen as, and everything I do is interpreted through that lens. And also, I'm friggin' 6'4", 300 something pounds. So
You black.
I'm a big black. You know what I mean?
black.
And it doesn't matter how I speak. It doesn't matter my cadence. It doesn't matter my attire. The fact that I wear glasses, my haircut, all these things does not matter one bit because the reality is that that's the first thing some people may see, and I have to be fully aware that if someone does see that first, I have to engage you on that level, and I have to do everything I can to try to pad that experience
and
for
disarm
you,
that. Yep.
so that I can come home, so that I can get the job, so that I can not be profiled, so that I can not get the call cops on me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it really does depend on my environment. Depending on the environment I'm actually more aware of my own blackness. Right. You know, because some places you're like, man, like, okay, I'm definitely the only black person here. And then you're highly aware of how you're doing what you're doing. If you have kids, you're highly aware of how your kids are acting. You're like, okay, like my kid, okay, wait, I don't want them to do this. You're even aware of what you're doing. You're aware of what you're wearing.
That's
you're
a really
aware
good
of how
point.
you're sitting.
Yeah.
Like you take stock in all these things. I'm chilling with y'all, man. We just
good.
chilling.
Yeah.
We just chilling, bro.
good.
And here's the thing, like I'm black, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm also not like, wait, did I say that? Did I say that too aggressive? Oh, okay, wait, but I don't. Okay, I can't really say this because Evan doesn't really understand. You know what I mean? So I think
I know exactly.
So I think that degree is dependent on my environment.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, I'm actually happy you wrote that part up because unfortunately I actually wasn't thinking about that in this very moment. But it's work. Also, I think it's one of those things too where when other groups, especially white people, show up as the only person in said group, I wonder if they view themselves as, I have to represent my entire race.
Right. So I got two things to that. So I got two things. I'm gonna say one thing first of all. I'm gonna give you kind of a
Also, wait, let's I want to be clear. because if there was like a white show or a show that only had white speakers on, they was like, oh well, I think black people feel like this.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Break down the black experience.
I don't we can't do that.
Your thoughts.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah, I got a good homie. He's Greek. One day we was all like, we in a group chat with him. It was obviously the group's very diverse. There's a Colombian guy in there. He's Greek. It's a Haitian guy in there. I'm in there. There's a Nigerian guy in there. It's a very diverse group chat. And then one day we were all out. Me, the Haitian guy, and the Nigerian guy, and the Greek guy were out pre-gaming. My homegirl was having a birthday. I'm like, let's go to her crib. I let him know, hey, it's gonna be primarily black people. So I'm like, first, I was just like, white people like, I don't necessarily want to go over there, be the only black person.
Yeah.
He goes. I'm like, it's gonna be cool. Everybody's gonna be great. We go, have a great time, have a good time. After about an hour there, he pulls me to the side. He's like, yo, just want to let you know, thank you for reminding me I had a good time. And he's like, I also want to let you know that, like, I be honest with you, I thought about not coming, right? Because like I didn't want to be uncomfortable. But then I thought, same time, this is what y'all go through every day. Like, y'all the only black person majority of the time in any rooms that you're in all the time. So how can I say to myself, I don't want to be the only white guy in the room, right?
Facts.
And then it's like, I'm going with 3 friends. You guys are going to put me in a situation that's going to make me uncomfortable. You wouldn't do that to me. Like, facts, right?
Facts.
So it's like, even that, and I gained more respect for him to even to have the awareness One, to recognize that.
Right.
Two, then even to admit that
True.
to me.
True.
And
Yeah.
that shows you
Because that's the
whether-
real progress.
That's the real
progress.
right?
That
Yeah.
honesty.
Right.
That like this is what I'm discomfort. Like this is what I'm uncomfortable feeling.
Right.
And we need to talk about those so we can bridge the gap and be like, okay, like help him. I don't want to say dismantle, but he needs to know that it's safe for him to be honest in these
Correct.
places.
Yeah.
Because then when he's more comfortable, he's more engaged, he's more involved, he's more inclined to get his boys to come through
Right.
that look different, or just he's better equipped to also talk to his brothers and sisters from a standpoint
Because
of how
those
to
are the
deal
most
with that
effective
situation.
people.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's also good to figure out what's the genesis of your discomfort.
Right.
Like if I were to say, hey bro, I'm uncomfortable going to a space that's all white, if I were to say that, I can fully articulate to you why.
Yes. Right.
I'm fully aware why. It's got
Yes.
nothing to do with stereotypes. It's got nothing to do with my ignorance, and it's got nothing to do with something I'm supposing, or every time I watch TV, I saw white people and they always did this, so I don't want to go to no. I can fully tell you why I may not be comfortable. If you were to ask someone who's not, like, why wouldn't you go to all black space? Well, then why? And what you get is not fact-based. What you get isn't an understanding of the society we live in. What you get isn't based on like the injustice and like rampant inequality that's around and how it's perceived. You get a bunch of like assumptions, stereotypes, ignorance, and it's like, but that has to be dismantled.
Yes.
Granted, it isn't always our job to do that, but it does have to be dismantled in order for it to happen. And even you asking, does someone who's white who goes into an all-black space feel the same way? Their personal feeling may not be the same way, but in terms of the society we live in, it's a completely different situation. Because if a white person comes in, they aren't the representative for the entire
No,
race.
they're not.
Which
It is not.
Which is the reason why we have lone wolf shooters.
Yes.
Which is the reason why we have.
I'm happy you connected
shoot up
that.
this, shoot
You
up that,
connected that,
shoot up
yes.
this, shoot up that. Lone wolf, lone wolf, lone wolf, lone
Yes.
wolf. You have a brother do one thing. Well, black people are prone to violence.
Yes.
People this. So the
It's in their
reality is,
nature.
Right.
so even if they do feel it or experience it, it kind of doesn't matter the personal, and even amongst us, like we've probably all experienced different levels of racism or possibly different things, but to a degree, it's kind of irrelevant if you're like, oh, I haven't felt it as much as you, because we have to be aware of the society we live in. And we have to be aware of the collective experience, and that amongst that collective, at any minute, you know what you are.
Correct.
At any minute, you can get
what
OJ.
time it is.
Right.
Yeah.
At any, you know what I mean?
Unfortunately.
And so I think we have to be aware of that, and we have to be aware that the standards are different in that respect. Because at any minute, it's not like, oh, you're the white person that represents all white people. It's like, nah, bro, you're you. Like you're fully individual.
Yes.
Your culture's appreciated for what it is. If you're being very, if you're talking with your hands and stuff, oh, it's just because you're Italian. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's
real
like, you know
talk.
what I mean? Like, if you're doing this and that, it's like, oh, it's because it's because you're Danish. It's all these different
socially
things.
acceptable.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
all these different things that we understand about, the full gamut of what we call being white, which in and of itself is kind of a myth that we could all talk about for a while. But you know what I mean? So I think it's just a different societal issue when based on who's in what space.
Right.
What is masculinity to you in 2018?
That's a hard question because I think there's a lot encompassed within masculinity, and I think the most dangerous thing to masculinity is the singular nature of masculinity.
Yeah.
So I think for me, masculinity is widespread. Because I think for so long it was a very singular nature. If you're masculine, you lift like this, so you love to lift. And like anytime there's a new fitness trend, yoga, oh bro, that's not masculine. This isn't masculine. That's not masculine. If you're masculine, you dress like this. Jeans were a little tighter, oh bro, that's not masculine.
That's not masculine.
You know what I mean? If you're masculine, you talk like this. You have enough bass in your voice. Whatever that means apparently, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't have enough, so you aren't masculine. So I think masculinity has had such a singular nature in our society, and it's wildly detrimental and like horribly dangerous, because you have people that feel like they aren't masculine, and masculine is something we're supposed to kind of ascribe to and be proud of, but yet you can't be proud of who you are, and you can't be who you are because who you are isn't classically masculine.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to say exactly what I think it is. I think what I'm learning it is, and I'm in that place, is I'm learning that masculinity in 2018 is being self-aware of what masculinity has been and how masculinity needs to move forward.
Let them know, Nick.
So,
No!
you know what I mean?
For real talk,
but
that's
bro,
it.
in all honesty,
Yes.
I think that's because, like, here's the thing: if you want to be on, oh, yo, like, what's a real man? What's a real man? A real man is a man who's self-aware. A real man is a man who's self-aware of who he is, his place in society.
Yes.
Is a man who's aware of the struggles that women face, is aware of the struggles that different cultures face, is aware of the privileges he has, the oppression that he may face, et cetera, et cetera. That's what real manhood is.
Facts.
You want to talk about maturity, manhood, all this, bro, it's got very little to do with wealth, appearance, et cetera, et cetera. All these other things we've been lied to. Masculinity is self-awareness, bro. If you ain't self-aware, then you ain't a man.
Facts.
You know? And so,
Facts.
and so I think that's something I'm learning. I'm evolving it. Sure, I'm definitely not there myself. So I know, you know what I mean?
It's a process.
But it's a process.
And owning that it's a process is healthy.
And that's masculinity in
smart,
itself.
and it makes it a conversation.
You know?
It makes it a conversation.
Yes,
you know
bro,
what I'm saying?
yes.
And woof, bruh, yes. So something, and I'm gonna let you interject in a hot second, but I think it's fascinating. So there's masculinity, and then there's toxic masculinity.
Yes.
And it's so pervasive, and there's a number of things that I'm certainly tired of.
Yeah.
And I want to be nuanced about it, but I might just be like, fuck it. I'm really tired of the no homo shit.
Yep.
I really think like it's, and it's one of those things that when I was younger, I might have called something gay like 4 or 5 times, and then at some point in time, I met a homeboy that everybody teased and made fun of because he was gay, but he was a really nice dude and didn't harm nobody. And I was just like, I think it's kind of foolish that I'm like over here saying mean things or denigrating him, and he's actually my friend.
Why is me saying something's gay and make it bad? Right.
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
it's gay, so it's bad. And
yeah,
it's like, wait.
because I vividly remember being like, man, I'd be really hurt if somebody was like, oh, don't be black. You know what I'm saying?
It's black, no. Oh, it's black, don't touch it, bro.
You know, like
come on, man.
just like for one, it's rude, it's nonsensical, it's divisive, and most importantly, if you're concerned about things like that, it's impossible for you to be living your best life.
Very true.
If you're upset about what people do behind closed doors, minding their own business, and that legit makes you upset at night or in the daytime or ever, like there's no way you're happy.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no way you're actually allowing yourself to flourish.
Yeah.
Even if you have all the things that like success might look like or what the world tells you success is, if you're able to be upset about something, I don't want to call it trivial because obviously them living their truth matters to them, but like if you're getting upset about something that don't concern you, dog, like come on.
Yeah.
It's just like we need to break that down. You see on the gram, oh, that's sus, bro. Or no, man. Yeah, like come on, man.
Yeah. Oh, bro,
because that's a huge problem too from a standpoint of, and I give a shout out to the show, this fire. Random acts of flyness.
Flyness, there we go.
Yeah, I call it random acts of blackness too. It might as well
I literally
be.
call it that, and I know it's not the name, but because the show's so black, it's so black. I'm like, random acts of blackness. And like, no.
But there's the one episode of the Toxic Masculinity where they talk about the way men catcall women. And they flipped it on its head and they had men catcalling other men. And it was fascinating because essentially what they also highlighted was that men are so afraid to be affectionate and supportive with each other that they're also super toxic when it comes to the way they project on the women.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was one of those things where, first off, the whole season is fire. They do a wonderful job at the nuance and highlighting. But that's like we need to get better at that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like when I tell dudes I love them, I don't feel bad about it at all.
Come on, bro.
As I'm giving you a full-on embrace and a hug, I love you, dog. You need anything, I got you, even if it's just a conversation. That should be normal.
Dude, even men saying I love you to each other, like, and I think I've realized this as just relationship-wise, as you have relationships amongst you and other men, just being like friends and being like, you realize how little guys say I love you to each other.
Yes.
Right. And you realize like, but why don't we say I love you to each other? Because I genuinely do love you. I care about your success. I'm invested in you as a human.
Yes.
You matter to me.
Yes.
If something happens to you,
I got you.
I got you, and it will hurt me and it will affect me because I care. So then why can't I just be like, hey bro, I love you, man. Hope everything goes well. You know what I mean? Like, why do, I remember I had a friend, I wanted to go see a movie. I was like, hey bro, let's go see this movie. And he was like, yeah. He was like, wait, just me and you? I was like, yeah bro. And he was like, oh man, I don't know about that. And like I start to laugh. I'm like cracking up because obviously he's joking.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like for real. I was like,
why?
What do you mean? And he's like, well, you know, people might think that we're gay.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, like, what are we going to be doing in the theater? Like, what do you like for real?
Make them think that. Yeah, like we just
Because I'm like, oh, like, what do you think? Like, I'm genuinely mad confused. Like, bro, why do you think this would be the case? And then I come to find out that this isn't, you know, and it's something amongst our culture where like we're just so afraid of the idea or the perception that someone may think we're not masculine, and it's like, but it's like, well, why are we so scared of this? Like, why are we so scared of these? And so I think it's something that we just have to be. And I think there's cultural moves more on the subtle side that are happening. Even the moves in fashion, bro. Look at like the things that are fashionable now.
And the high fashion cats, all the high
things that
fashion
are
cats.
fashionable, and so many cats will be like, famous. Oh, I don't know, man.
That
you know what I mean?
That sauce, like, bro, I mean, sus as fuck with these joggers on.
Yeah. Like, yo, you can wear that, but me, I ain't trying to be caught. You know what I mean? It's just like, so I think where we're seeing things move, where things that aren't masculine or whatever, and like purposely using air quotes for this because I don't really believe those things, but are being pushed where it's like, you know, we're able to have this full gamut of the masculine and specifically the black masculine experience where we don't go to be in this, you have to be this kind of man.
Yes.
But I think there's a long way to go, but I think there's just things we have to break amongst us, you know what I mean? And like, bro, I don't care if someone thinks because of the fact I adapt you and I'm sitting here like, you know what I mean?
I
and
love
I'm
you,
like,
bro.
Yeah, like, hey bro, I love you, man. Hope if someone thinks I'm gay for that, hey bro.
That's their problem. That's their problem.
Not only is it your problem, you clearly, I wouldn't want to be close to you because you don't even know how to show love and affection to people you're around. If you can't tell me you love me and you love me,
then we got a problem with that. Then that's a waste of energy right there on my part. Facts.
If you can't tell me you love me and you love me, like think about that.
Real talk.
Just because you don't want someone to perceive it a certain way, so you care more about your appearance than the affection between us and our friendship and our bond and our brotherhood? Come on, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Facts. Facts.
I mean, y'all said it. Y'all said it.
I'm not about to say that's pretty comprehensive. That's pretty comprehensive.
Question 4.
I think to piggyback on it, there's something where I had gone to Michelle Obama's Becoming tour, and fire, like Oprah, like I mean, it was a moment, dog. Like it was a moment, and I remember I was like raving about it afterwards, and I was talking to a friend of mine that I'm collaborating with to make some new clothes stuff, some new apparel, and she had said, and it was interesting to me. She like gave me credit for going to see it from a standpoint of, you know, it's not too many black men that would like be so supportive of a strong woman, especially a strong black woman. And I was like, I just thought it was a weird thing to get kudos for. And for me, and my experience, especially with black women, is very, very different. It's because like my mom is my superhero, and all I know is like women to be strong. Like that's literally my only like expectation, just because she's done incredible things that I don't like she's my superhero. Right. Yeah. She was my educator, my nurturer, my provider, my guiding light. And that's all I know women to be, especially black women. Like I'm fully aware of what they're capable of. And if anything, I'm actually like attracted to that. Like obviously, I'm here for both of these women. But I thought it was fascinating that she gave me kudos for it, and it forced me to reflect and be like, man, like women in general, and I actually asked a couple of questions, had some polls, and folks have responded in a way that I was kind of surprised by, really think that men are hyper intimidated by strong women. And maybe that's true. I just assume, in fact, I'm sure it's true. The men that I surround myself with, I'd like to think don't feel that way, because that's just not the kind of energy that like I'd like to keep around myself. That's kind of dangerous. But what do you guys think about that?
Lots of them. I can answer that in a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
I think part of the issue, one, is that they are intimidated, kind of going back what you say, because men aren't taught to share emotion, right? So the reason you're hyper intimidated by strong women is because those women will challenge you, right?
Yes.
When you're challenged, what do you have to do? Your job is to express how you truly feel. Not even to be combative, but to resolve the situation, or to make sure, not to be challenged, but if they're challenges, because a strong woman, she's challenged because she wants you to be the best, right? So then what's that challenge you to do? Because you're not, what'd you say? You're not in tune with your own emotion, you can't express yourself, so you don't know how to take that.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because you're not taught, is the term of the toxic masculinity, you're not taught to be vulnerable. You're not taught to express your emotion. If you express emotion, that's a sign of weakness, right? Rather, really is a sign of strength. So because you're not taught to do that, therefore you can't match that woman. Right? And then because of that, you can't match women. That's why you then still start to feel insecurity, right? Because you don't know how to feel. Like, dang, this is how I really feel. I don't know what I feel. Well, I guess, that doesn't really feel that good, right? And then it's like, oh, well, but why does it feel good? Well, dang, now she's making more than me, and all this. And then you start getting deeper and deeper to the hole, then you start getting angry, right? And you getting angry to be all day, and then then when she does anything, you lash out. Then what you do, you put your hands on her. Right? Now you done went from her challenging you to having a conversation with you. Now you put your hands on it, now you're in a domestic violence situation. Right? Now you're in a toxic relationship. All because of your own insecurity, because you couldn't express how you feel when she was challenging you.
Wow.
Right? And that's one option. I think two, because of that, I think it goes back to your person that surrounds you. It's being able to, when you are faced with those situations, having other males that you can then go to and say, hey, so-and-so did this to me. This is how I truly feel about this. How should I respond to this? Not that guy who's also caught up in the toxic masculinity mindset. He's like, oh man, F that chick. Or I'll give you an even more real basic example. Say you go into it as a single man, go on 3 or 4 dates, you know what I'm saying? Yo, I'm really feeling this chick. Not even that she's a one, but like, yo, like this chick got potential. I'm like, yo, she ain't good enough yet to meet the homies because y'all still working it out. But you know, like, yo, you might talk to your homies about her. You get to that 4th date, she's like, you know what? I think you a great guy. I just don't see the same thing with you moving forward, but I think you're cool. Like, yo, it's okay to be like, damn. Like, I was feeling that chick. I'm hurt. And then it's okay to then call your homie. You don't, the toxic masculinity guys, come on, man, F that chick, man. It's the whole it's more vicious to go do it. It's like, no, the conversation you really need to have for you to really to grow as a person, like, yo, what happened? Like, why, like, yo, what, did you do something? Really get to the problem as to one, why you were feeling her. So if you can figure out why you feel it, then now you can replicate that and what you're looking for in the future. Because if you like that person about her, then you can find it into somebody else. 3, maybe it was just something you did wrong. She wasn't vibing with you. It didn't have to be a thing. Just because you felt that way about her doesn't mean she had to feel that same way about you.
And also maybe she was going through something.
Correct.
And I think it's also a mixture.
Not the right time. And it's not just right time, which happens all the time. And I think that's kind of the matter in terms of like, we're so used to the ingrained culture of you having to be dominant to be in control. And it goes back to, get ready to put some of this up. Then we can kind of transition. I don't know how you want to do it, but my mentor told me one of the best things about being a leader is knowing how to empower others and not having power over others. Right?
That's so true.
And that's one of the best things when you think about women. Like women today, like you can't make nobody else happy. In the day, like so you're with somebody because you got to be a partnership, but you're helping each other grow. Right? So you're talking about if she can empower you, if you can empower her at the same time, that's a healthy partnership. Right? So the relationship to make a healthy relationship.
It's about redefining what a healthy relationship looks like.
Are you guys empowering other, not having power over each other? Right? If you guys are empowering her to exceed and achieve your personal goals, you guys are both going to continue to grow that bond. And that's what it comes down to. And that's what you need to be able to do as a man when you have that strong, dominant woman, is to see that beacon of light in her and empower her to fuel her, because only what she's gonna do, because if she beliees in you, she only gonna lift you up with her.
Period.
Right? Don't look at it like, oh, dang, she here, I'm not there. Like, no,
man.
if she believes in you, she's gonna bring you with her. Right? Because she wants what's best for you as well. And if you believe in her, she's gonna believe in you. That way you both are uplifted. Right?
It's so crazy because so many guys look up to power couples but don't want to be in a power couple. You know? So many, like for real though.
About Russell Wilson and Sierra, perfect example. So these guys I hate on Twitter, like, oh, Russell Wilson, how you gonna take care of somebody else's kids? That's when you marry a woman and she got a kid. That's what comes with it. You married a whole person.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Like so many guys, like I want to get a chick that's blah blah blah, and it's like, but then you get one, and
you don't know how to deal with it.
And because I think the reality is, men and women, and this may sound like somewhat primitive, but but essentially, like for the most part, from what I found is that women see the potential in men, and then they will see that potential, and from that potential, they will stick with you. So sometimes we see women, it's like, oh, like how come she's still with so, and it's like, well, because she sees potential. I don't know a single person that's been successful since the minute they were born.
It's a fact.
You have plenty of guys that are successful, and the reason they stick with the woman they're with is because, like, bro, well, you know me now, but you didn't see what it was before. Now, unfortunately, we don't see potential, and stick with
Facts.
someone due to that potential. We want like some sort
everything
of
to be perfect
like
already.
finished
Yeah.
product,
Yep.
but yet ourselves, I mean, we don't want to be
ain't
a
ready.
finished product, and we don't want to be with someone who's going to call us
Right.
out
Right.
on not being a finished product. But the reality is that there's no such thing as a self-made person. Everyone takes people around them. So the reality is, and when you speak about we want to redefine a healthy relationship, well, whoever you're with is supposed to be your best friend, right? Whoever your spouse is supposed to be your best friend. And what does your best friend do? Hey, bro, I see you're struggling and failing in life. It's fine.
Right.
I'm not going to call you to anything higher. Remember those dreams you told me about?
Forget about
I'm not going to tell you to achieve them. I'm not going to help you pursue them. No, you have your best friend. And even when you mess up, what does your best friend do? Hey, bro, that's not who you truly are.
Right.
Hey, bro, hey, man, I understand what you're going through and you made a mistake, but we're actually going to get through this and we're going to move on. Your best, whoever is closest to you always is reminding you of your calling, reminding you of your purpose, pushing you towards your destiny. But yet, if we want the person we're with to be our best friend, we don't want them to fill that best friend role. And we want to be like, no, you're just supposed to be over here and like do this, allow me to do this and that. And I think sometimes we have just a messed up idea of what it looks like for someone to have grace for you in a relationship, but also for that grace to push you forward, for that grace to make you a better person, for that
Yes.
grace to actually help you achieve your dreams. And so I think within the context of it, I think a lot of men are intimidated by strong women, but I think they're intimidated because it means that they have to be better. They have to be better than they are.
Facts.
And most of us, and you look at the society we live in, women are at a point where a lot of the time they have to have everything together just to achieve the same success that we do. How many cats you know are millionaires?
Whoa, you out there?
How many? Bro, for real though.
Hey, fuck, man,
Bro,
yes.
Right.
How many cats you know killing it at their job?
Yes.
Personal life,
Trash.
trash, bro. There's like
Straight
absolute trash. But there's
Yes.
no woman that can be killing it at her job and have a trash personal
Nah.
life.
Right.
Because as a woman, you're taught, okay, you need to have this together, that together, this fixed, that fixed, this fixed before you do it. As a guy, it's like, hey, just focus on this.
Right.
And you
And
can
you're
really
good.
do whatever else you want.
good.
You can really achieve, like, it doesn't matter, all those things. And so we get to these points where like, we think we're killing it. And we're like killing it in this lane, and you have a woman who comes along who's had to do all the things we haven't had to and really don't want to,
And
to
still do your job.
to get to where she is. And
Yeah.
she approaches you and goes, "Hey, like I love that we connect on this level, but there's a lot of things in your life, for lack of a better term, that you really should work on and kind of
Facts.
address and not neglect." And we go, "Oh,
I ain't got time for that.
I didn't really want that though." You know what I
But
mean?
real talk.
Like, and so I think that's what it is. And I think part of it is our society not, and I don't blame it all on society, like there's personal responsibility still, but I think part of it is we're not set up for success amongst like a relationship because there's two different standards for how the sexes operate in the world in which we live. So because there's two different standards, you can be at the same point in life, quotes, but when you come together, you really ain't at the same point in life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Real talk. It's real.
Killed that. I mean, like, for real, killed that. Ooh.
That needs to be a snippet.
I mean, yeah, like just like
Send that to own.
right. Ooh. Yes.
This way, off the record, as you kind of put up the other question. Like one of my homegirls asked me today, I'm single, I go on these dates all the time.
Yeah.
And my girl really just asked me, she's like, what are you really looking for in a woman? I was just like, somebody who believes in me.
Fam.
Like, in
But
the day,
that's-
like,
but-
but, like I can find, like I'm not worried about, like I know I'm gonna find, like I'm not even, all the materialistic thing, looks,
You gonna be
job,
good.
I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
worried about that. Like,
Yeah,
at the end of the day,
yeah.
I know I can find that. I'm not
Yeah.
really worried about that. At the end of the day, it's like, in the day, like, I just want her to believe in me.
Yeah.
Like, to your guys saying, long term, if
Yeah,
we're gonna
bro.
be together, she needs to believe in me, and I need to believe in her.
Yes, somebody
Right.
that makes me better and somebody that will allow me to make her better.
I think one of the greatest things in a relationship is to be able to be a male cheerleader.
Yes,
That's one of my- that's one of the greatest things.
So real talk, the realest talk, and I have this conversation with Rachel on like a regular basis.
Yeah,
It's one
yeah.
of those things where I was like, yo, I want you, and granted, I'm out here trying to change the world, and I'm going to do that, but I want you to be so much better than me. I want to legit just be out here, like, I mean, I don't want, because it's one of those things too, especially when, like, I dream real big.
Yeah.
I live real big. That's totally my intentions.
Yeah.
And I don't want her to feel as though she's dwarfed in that. Like I don't want her to feel any type of negativity based upon how big I dream and how big I see and how big I want to do things. And my 100%, like you said, my favorite role would be.
It's the greatest.
cheerleader.
That was
It's
the
just
moment I knew I was in love with my wife.
Yes.
Was
Yes.
a moment of male cheerleadership,
Yes.
I guess, in
No,
a
but just-
relationship.
yeah.
Like that was the moment. Like
Yeah.
I had a friend, he was in a relationship and he was struggling when eventually they broke up. He was like, bro, when did you know you were in love with your wife? Asked me like 5 times. I kept saying, hey bro, I don't think you and this girl gonna work out. You keep trying to find this moment and you keep asking me about my moment. But it was literally a moment in our relationship where we basically went to this event and all the women there were like, oh my God, because they just loved who she genuinely was. Not because of
Yes,
status,
like when
not
you're
because of
proud.
fake, but because she had built relationship with them, poured into them, invested in them. And I literally sat on the sidelines and was cheesing.
Yes,
and,
bro.
and was just like, this is the greatest moment. And I was like, this, and I fell in love with her. And I was like, I'm going to marry her. Because it was this amazing moment of male cheerleadership
Yes.
where I was like, it's got nothing to do with me. It's not about me. It's just like literally, I was like, and I think that's one of the greatest things.
Facts.
But I think so many guys don't want that.
Facts.
And even deeper, don't know how to really appreciate it. Like, I don't think they don't want it out of, and yeah, it's selfishness and et cetera, but I don't think we've ever been taught to learn how to appreciate it. Because how many times do we see men truly celebrate the women they're with? Not out of selfish ambition, not out of, everyone give my wife a hand, she's made me a better man.
Yeah.
Not out of some bull crap like that, but out of, yo, my wife's incredible.
Yes.
And you step back.
Yes,
And that's it.
That's it.
That's
Go
it.
ahead.
Don't make it about you.
No.
She stuck with me when I was broke, and now I'm a millionaire. Everyone gives Susie a hand. It's like, come on, bro. It's not about that. But just be like, she's the greatest person on the planet. Everyone show her love. She's amazing in her own right. And step out the way. Don't make it about you. How many times do we see that? It's not something we see celebrated. So it's hard for us to know how to celebrate ourselves.
Because similarly enough, it's one of those things where we were on a train to, like, heading up north in New York on leaving Grand Central Station, and I remember some riders, my teacher over at Soul Cycle, and some riders were on the train, and Rachel had like just got off of work, ran to the train station to catch it at 125 so we can go up to Rybrook, and they asked her what she does for a living. And the level of pride, like first off, she was all like, oh, I work with black and brown kids in Harlem to reverse the achievement gap. She's like, you know, our kids are out here outperforming the rich white kids up in Scarsdale. It's one of the things we were like, first off, she's white. so it's like, second of all, like, I was just like, you were out here just ruthless. Like, I probably wouldn't have worded it the same way she worded it.
Exactly.
But she was just like straight savage. And it was one of those things where hearing her have such pride and passion in her mission and what it is that she cares about, I was just like, there was nothing more attractive to me.
Yes.
It's still, is it like still, don't get me wrong, Boo is fine, but like still, that's it.
Yeah,
that's the why behind it. You feel me?
Yeah.
That's what I knew.
Yeah.
That's what I knew.
As men, we should seek that.
Yes.
We should genuinely seek, and everyone's relationship, I'm like, dynamics are different.
Yes.
And I fully respect that.
Yes.
Everyone's dynamics are different, but as men, you should seek to be with someone you can celebrate.
True. Facts.
Plain and simple. Because otherwise, why are you with them?
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, relationships are selfless endeavors. 100%. You should seek with someone you can celebrate. So, all right, people. I'm Nick Hallman. Thanks for joining us on The Solution.
Evan Marshall, aka It's Whatever. Always happy to be here creating solutions to solving problems and dealing with real life issues. Thank you, Anthony McClain.
Thanks,
for
bro.
having me out here on the show. Thank you, Nick, for always dropping that real knowledge. This man right here, deep.
Yeah, like super deep, too deep.
Thank you for this, man.
No doubt,
This is
this was
amazing.
fire. I think the first episode went really, really well. I appreciate anybody and everybody that's watching. There's much more to come, much more conversations to be had, much more growth to take place, much more progress. Thanks for watching.